Christina Tyge, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot.
It's so good to have you guys on. So for those listening, I'm speaking to two house flippers based in New Zealand with a show called To Reno on YouTube, and they're also two proud parents of a 6 and 3-year-old. Firstly, New Zealand, and I hear an accent from you, Christina. Tell me, how did you guys meet?
Yeah, well, we are not Kiwis living in New Zealand. I'm from the States, and you're from South Africa.
Yeah.
And we met here. I've been in New Zealand for 22 years, and you've been here for how long?
About the same, I think, 22, 23 years, something like that.
Yeah, and what drew you to coming here? Going to New Zealand, yeah.
For both of us, our parents just put on a plane, and we're moving. So my parents in the States, they just wanted a change of lifestyle, and they're like, we're going. And then, South Africa was getting
a bit rough. So, there's a lot of families who were moving. So, it was one of those things. We just followed suit.
There you go. And how did you both meet?
Well,
we met at our church.
Yeah. It was, we were not friends first. I walked out of the building. He was walking in, and I was like, that's good. That's good for me. Sign that up. I'll marry you one, thank you.
Yeah. We didn't muck around. How long? We were married a year later.
Yeah.
18 months. No, married 18 months later.
Yeah.
Engaged 6 months later, and then married. Yeah.
Wow. And when did babies come along?
We planned it. So we wanted a good amount of time before babies. So 5 years we were married.
We were married 5 years first.
Yeah.
Some sleep-ins,
Yeah.
Although I can't remember them anymore.
No.
It's gone. It's a long time. It feels like a long time ago, even though it was only 5 years ago.
Totally, it's like a thing of the past. I actually listened to this thing on Instagram. It was a reel, and this guy he was so true, and he was talking about the seasons of your life. And often, I mean, how many times do we see, call it people in their 20s, like, running along the park at 7 a.m. They've just had their coffee, they're looking fresh as a daisy, and there we are, like all wrinkled up, haven't slept, just like, damn it, I miss those days. And the guy was saying on this reel that there are different seasons, and you kind of just have to appreciate that. I don't know, does that resonate with you guys? Do you kind of look back sometimes and go, oh, that was amazing pre-kids?
Gosh, it's totally. When it comes to like sheer just tiredness,
selfishness, those are the selfish years, right?
Totally. I mean,
what you wanted to do when you wanted to do it.
Yes.
The thing is, though, seasons it's all roundabouts, right? I mean, we know in real life seasons come, go, come, go, come, go. It's how the world works. So these people that are out running right now, 7 a.m. in their 20s, feeling great. We're going to be sitting there with young adults, having a nice coffee with them, and they're going to be dealing with their colicky babies, and it's just swings and roundabouts, right? So I think the key is, and what we talk about all the time, is how do we appreciate the season we're in? Because they're going to go quickly. Before we know it, our boys will be borrowing his truck to drop,
it's also understanding your seasons.
Yeah.
So a big thing for us is understanding the season you're in. And that can kind of give you perspective, it can give you grace to be able to handle things the right way and not just be so overwhelmed and in the moment. So I mean, we've had a pretty full on 3 years plus, or since the kids have been born, I'd say.
Yeah.
But we feel like we're coming into something so new as a family with our boys. They just seem to be coming into their own. It just seems to be a lot more peaceful at home. Everyone's a bit more chilled.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is feeling good.
Yeah. But if you'd asked us like 2 years ago, we would have just we were in the trenches, and we are. I mean, we're dealing with a lot right now as parents.
Totally.
But I remember we would have conversations. Like it's like midnight, one kid's thrown up, the baby's not sleeping, like we're exhausted. And I just remember one time we just ended up cracking up. When you're too tired to cry, you just laugh. And we just hugged each other, and we were just like, this is gonna pass. And then this is the moment that we're gonna talk about when we're sitting, the two of us on a trip to Hawaii, clean house.
Yes.
We're gonna be like, oh, remember when? So this is trying to enjoy what we call our beautiful chaos.
Yeah, I love that. Talk to me more about that. Do you actively, put things in place or have certain conversations or, when you are feeling overwhelmed and over it? I mean, you were saying, Christina, you guys are going to start filming in a week's time. It's going to get really busy again for you and you've got your 2 children. So, when you're sitting in all of that, what do you say to each other, to yourselves to try and lift yourselves up?
Gosh, you go.
Well, I do the lift. No, I'm kidding. Well, I think for us, it's about, because we know we have these bouts of real busyness in our lives, right? Where all of a sudden we're out early, we're back late, school, kindy, swimming lessons, it's full on. And so when we do have our downtime, we really prioritize what we do at that time. We've also made big adjustments in the past, like when we know we're doing a house flip, which is a really intense amount of time. He doesn't work weekends. And he used to just work all the way through because he's like, I'm just going to renovate this house, get it done.
Yeah.
But then everything else kind of falls to the wayside.
Yeah.
So it's about putting in, I hate boundaries. It's kind of a funky word when it comes to like your family life, but we're putting in like boundaries that are really healthy that mean we can handle the busy season.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, I don't know, the word toing and froing comes to mind, but like our lives are quite different. So we don't kind of just go in with the normal. So like, for example, we'll have a very busy season, maybe 2 months will just be go, filming and doing a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And then we might have 6 weeks that's really chilled. And in that time, we might pull the boys out of school on a Wednesday and go to the zoo. And just kind of really breathe and hang out as a family and do stuff. And Christina and I might just lie on the deck and sunbathe on a winter's day just do whatever. And it sometimes you feel guilty in the early days.
I don't.
But not anymore.
Yeah.
In the early days I feel guilty because I'm thinking it's Monday to Friday. I should be working. I should be doing something. Yeah. But then realize, no, that's just not the way it works for us. So
it's about taking those moments.
Yeah.
Especially for us as a couple. Yeah. And taking a moment together while the kids are playing or while they're Nana and Granddad's for the afternoon and just kind of it's just about finding the balance, really.
100%. And even I think the relationship piece that you touched on there is just so important and really quite challenging, particularly for parents with young children. I mean, we are also busy, we're sleep deprived. Often we sort of feel like we're living with a roommate or, you're grunting at each other, you're co-parenting, but you're kind of just doing the tasks. And even just to ask how your day was can sometimes feel really tiring. And half the time you're like, I don't even care. Like, I'm just trying to survive here. So, and particularly when your children are in the toddler years, I mean, I've got a 2 and 3 year old, and particularly when, we're dealing with newborn and toddler and all of that and getting the sleep right, it's really challenging. I know with myself and my husband, we really need to make an active effort to connect. And what that looks like for us is putting dates in the diary and saying, this is time for us, because if it's not in the diary, it will not happen. And we use that time really to catch up on life. So I'm curious about yourselves, because obviously similarly you've got 2 kids, busy lifestyle. Were there times that you guys felt like roommates and you were just kind of doing the tasks?
Plenty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be very unusual for a couple to not have a season like that.
Yeah.
So for us, I think it's really when the kids were a bit younger. When we probably had like a 1-year-old and what was about
maybe 4.
That kind of season there. We were totally roommates and survival mode. So we actually had some pretty hardcore conversations back in the day, being like, what I don't want, this is what we were saying to each other, is we don't want our kids to leave the nest and then look at each other and be like, oh yeah, I think I like you still, you were a guy I lived with and we raised kids together, but we weren't really a couple. So we had a conversation and we were like, what's going to work for us? So a priority for us has been a night away here and there at a hotel.
We do it quite regularly.
Well, yes, because we do it as much as we can, because we found that a 24-hour, give or take, amount of time together, kid-free, sleep-ins, cocktails by the pool at the hotel.
Yeah.
Not talk. We also really don't really talk about the kids when we're gone. It's just us and having fun, whatever. That is like our full recharge for us, and it gets us to kind of right.
I'll tell you, we do that. I'd say we do that once every 2 months.
Yeah,
And we've been doing that now for quite a long time, a couple of years. And that's just our way of, just catching up and just being a couple again and whatnot, because we understand. I think we hit a point where we realize that, at some point it does feel like we're just roommates, teammates, whatever. But in that we understand.
Yes.
And we're not, Christina's not coming to me going, you not doing this or you this or this, that, because we just kind of both know, hey, we're both in the thick of it. We're both just in the zone. We don't have much time for each other right now, but let's just push through this and then we'll take some time, which we do.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I say, it's understanding where you're at, giving grace to each other, and then still taking the time at the end of that period to hang out and be a couple, because sometimes that has felt weird, when you've done the whole teammate thing for so long. It's almost hard to connect again. So it's really, really, really important.
And so like not talking about the kids when we go away is like, sorry, it's not like we don't talk about them, of course we do, but it's our time away is actually just for me to feel like a wife, and for him to feel like a husband. And we got married because we're best friends, and because I like him the most out of everybody on the earth. So I want to hang out with him. And so it's like going back to the basics. So as cheesy it is, like going back to dating each other a little bit, and then back into the trenches.
Yeah, totally. And feeling, grounded when you head back in. Curious, what triggered you to start implementing these sort of little getaways? Was there a point where you really felt as though you'd grown apart, or was there anything that triggered it, or just a suggestion one day by one of you? What happened?
We just had it was just hard. It was
exhaustion.
It was exhausting.
Yes.
I was sleep deprived. Our toddler is high energy. And then we had a baby. And at this point, we were still trying to figure out and work towards what we're doing now. So we weren't feeling like we were having massive success in our careers. It was a lot. And I remember once we were just sitting, having a drink somewhere. I think my parents had the kids for the afternoon. We were just having lunch. And we kind of were like, I love you, but I don't super like you right now. And both of us kind of felt the same. And we're like, because we don't talk about the D word ever, divorce. It's just not on the table for us ever. So we were just kind of like expressing these feelings we were having. I was like, I don't want to feel like I don't like you. It's just so full on that I've got nothing for you. You've got nothing for me. And then we were like, okay, we can either stick like this and it's going to head down a road we really don't like the look of, or what can we do?
Yeah, because what we found is it's like what's going to replenish us, and the date night's just not going to cover it. It's not going to do it. Like after 2 months or whatever. I mean, I suppose a date night,
but a
date night a week wasn't going to cover it for the situation and just the way our lives were. We needed to just get away for at least 24 hours, 36 hours, and just unwind. Christina would have a few cocktails and maybe get a massage and just really have some real downtime. And that's what worked for us. I mean, maybe a date. We know a lot of people that do a date night a week.
And that works perfect.
But that just wasn't enough for us. A date night a week's not going to.
I was like super exhausted. And I know all moms are, but that's really what I felt. It was making me feel kind of the heaviest because I was just tired, in my bones, tired. So to get dressed up, go out for dinner, I knew that I would probably brush that off most Friday nights, whatever, be like, hey, actually, I'm too tired. But hey, an idea of going away, having a sleep in, not having to cook and clean, mate, I'm in. And I came back feeling great, and I was excited to see the kids. And we had fun. We felt like, cool kids again, not just tired old parents.
And it means we do whatever we want, right? There's sometimes we get a hotel and we just plonk ourselves on the bed with takeaways and junk food and watch movies for 24 hours. Just whatever you feel like doing.
So it works for us.
I love that. And I think the big lesson there for even for those listening is you got to work out what is your jam, right? Like, so you guys have a very, very intense filming period for several months. And so therefore, and you know, obviously with the 2 children and the not sleeping, that made sense for you. I know for myself, you know, getting away for that day night certainly helps ground me. So I think the lesson here is really actually identifying that if there is a bit of distance that's coming between the two of you as a couple, firstly talking about it, and I think that's really powerful. I mean, even just that conversation you were talking about then, Christina, like we sat down and we were like, actually, yeah, you're not my favorite person right now, and I'm just freaking over all of this. A lot of people don't talk about it, and then you get 8-10 years down or 5 years down the track and you're looking at each other and you're like, I'm resentful, I do more, you do less. In my head, I'm doing more, you know, and you point score and you do all the things, and it's easy to do. I mean, I'm sure you've both been there where you're sitting there going, no, I've done more now, like, you know, and thank me for it. Be grateful, because for me, that was also another big piece I had to speak to my husband about. I need gratitude. When I put dinner on the table, that's not that easy to do, and I've got a job too. So just say, babe, great dinner, thank you. Like, it's as simple as that sometimes. I don't know, have you guys found that little things like that can be a point of contention too?
Totally. I think, you know, we always talk about the grass is greener on the other side, right? So, you know, what's the quote? Water your own garden. In your own garden, resentment is the biggest weed that's going to grow in this season of life. Resentment is the big one you got to look out for, because it'll just creep up and it grows really quick. And resentment is for us, like in our conversations, resentment is just me thinking one thing and feeling like I'm not getting. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So communication and opening it up is, I think, the number one thing that actually helps resentment. When we've talked about roles in our marriage, talking about our roles, I do this, you do that. I wish you could maybe do this more. And he would say, well, I really appreciate it when you do that.
Yeah.
Having these conversations about our roles in life and in parenthood works really well to not let that weed of resentment kind of grow.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we've kind of worked through a lot of it in the last few years, and I think we're quite clear on our roles. In saying that we don't take each other for granted in those roles, and like you say, we are appreciative of each other in it. And at some points, we need to step up and help each other in those roles.
Well, and also, like you're saying, like, you know, someone like your husband saying, "Hey, I just so appreciate dinner." Part of our conversation is, because we are different people with different love languages, is I've said to him, hey, I really appreciate words of affirmation. It's one of my love languages. If I'm exhausted and I've got spit up and the kids or whatever and the house is a mess, and he says, gosh, you're a great mom, boom, I instantly just feel so appreciated. I feel like I'm doing a good job. So we've had conversations in the past being like, what I need from you is, when you think, hey, man, you know, she did a great dinner or whatever, just tell me.
Say it.
And I've said to him kind of what I need. Do you know what I mean? And he's said to me, you know, vice versa. So yeah,
that's such a big thing when you just said that, because I know with my husband Jules, he'd be like, yeah, but by me being silent, it means I approve, and I'm like, dude, that doesn't cut it for me. I'm like, I need to hear it, you know. Whereas he's probably more like acts, like I need to sort of, you know, do the acts. And we did actually one weekend that we had away, we sat there with the love language book and I read it out loud. I was like, no, you have to listen to this book. And he was like, I don't know, okay, fair enough if it means that much to you. And I'm like, it does. And I think, you know, little things like that. And it was fun and we had a good time. But, you know, you do take away the lessons. And I mean, the one thing I wanted to ask actually is, how did you find the time when the children were young and things like that to even have some of these conversations? And I know it probably sounds so silly to ask, but often we are so swept up in the chaos that people are like, I just don't have time. Like, did you sort of, you know, try to, you know, did you have family support and there were times where you were able to be alone, or how did you carve out that time?
Well, we have been, obviously, because we've said we go away in hotel and stuff. We do have support. And I think that people who don't have a tribe around them, which is so common these days when you live away from another country to family and stuff like that, that's really hard. And so, you know, I think that couples who are on that journey, I mean, good on them. That's amazing. I wish I could say that these conversations that were so healthy came from us sitting down lovingly and looking each other in our arms. But usually it's because we've been arguing.
Yeah.
And we're going, so we're bickering, you're bugging me, I'm bugging you, we're butting heads. Stop, what the heck's going on? And then the conversations come from usually.
Well, it might not even come straight away. It might come like days later after an argument. And then we finally sit down and we're able to kind of think of it clearly and start talking through it. And you're forced to talk through it because currently
I forced you to.
No, because at that point, your relationship's taking a bit of a hit.
Yeah.
And so you're forced to actually make time to sit down because you can feel the tension in the home.
Yeah.
And so we end up having to sit down, and in that time we kind of figure a few things out and apologize or
have
this and that,
tough
and then
conversations.
she'll gain understanding on where I'm thinking and vice versa, and then but we've had many of those.
Oh yeah,
so many.
But that's the thing. I don't think arguing or anything like that is bad in your relationship. But it's like, what do you do with it? Do you know what I mean? So if you're just gonna argue, and then push it down, and I'm not talking to you, and it can get really toxic.
Yes.
But if you look at your relationship and you're like, okay, we're tired, we're arguing, we're bickering. What's going on? And that can be a catalyst for some really good open conversations.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was hard for me. And I'm not one to talk.
Nope.
Yeah.
We saw that.
So we'd fight and whatever, and I would just bottle it all up.
Yeah.
So learning to talk has been a hard one, and that's been the biggest one for me. Or biggest hurdle is actually learning to express my emotions and the way I feel, and I don't like it. It doesn't feel comfortable to do it, but knowing that it's going to help our relationship be what we want it to be has forced me to slowly open up more and more and more.
You're doing great. You're doing really good.
Yeah.
That's been a real learning thing for him.
I love that point, actually, because I'm thinking about the people who are sitting there listening going, yeah, well, my partner, wife, husband, doesn't like to open up, and I want to. And so therefore, how do I encourage them to start opening up? I mean, Tyge, was there a point in which, any advice around that? Was there a point in which you went, okay, look, I have to open up, otherwise it could mean, losing this relationship, so I have to, it was kind of like that? Or did Christina sort of encourage you in a way? How did you go about it?
It's kind of that thing, it's what you said. It's knowing that I want to say something that I know that could quickly disarm the whole situation, and it's actually how I genuinely feel, but I've got this facade up now that's hardened, and I don't want to show that vulnerability, that vulnerable side, who actually, it's how I want to actually be or feel. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's so many conversations or arguments where I've felt a certain way and I wanted to say something, but we've had an argument and I've closed up. And then I'll walk away and I'll be so disappointed because I wish I could say what I really wanted to say. And I know that in a moment we could fix the situation. And I think what's made the change is that I've walked away so many times and not said what I wanted to say. And that has, and the fight or whatever is going on has drawn out for days, sometimes weeks, and the tension in the home. And so for me, it was a personal thing of going, hey, I know that as the husband in this home and as Christina's husband and the dad, I have the ability to actually diffuse a lot of these things if I'm just willing to say something and open up. And it's not forced. I'm not trying to force something. It's actually genuinely there. I just need to be brave enough to say it.
And I think in our marriage, kind of for me, I learned probably the hard way because it's not how I automatically do it. But if I know that we're struggling, we're having these conversations, he's gone kind of a certain way, he doesn't really want to kind of open up and whatever. The worst thing I could do is to kind of get in his face and kind of push his buttons more. So what I found has really worked is to give him that space to then open up, which means giving a little bit of time and then coming and sitting down in the most unconfrontational, loving way, which is literally I love you. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And then the facade comes down and he can open up. But I learned the right way, because in the past I would come at him and I'd be like, I'm up here.
Yeah.
And then I learned quickly, hey, let's just create this nice environment where he actually feels like, and he's just gotten better at communicating. But, in the season of raising kids, it's even more so important, I think.
Isn't it?
To just...
We've had a couple of days that I'm not proud of that, that our kids saw.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man,
tired arguing parents.
But
you learn from it. And you learn from it. And I think it's really important for kids to see how mommy and daddy resolved.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so they've seen us arguing.
Yes.
But are they going to see us apologizing to each other?
Yes.
Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
If we can raise kids that know how to handle a confrontation or an argument in their own life.
Yes.
When I yelled at the kids because I'm tired, they're not listening, they're fighting, blah, 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 and I lose my cool, the biggest thing I do now is I sit them down and go, I'm so sorry I did that. I shouldn't have yelled at you.
Yeah.
Mommy's really tired. And Daddy didn't bring her coffee in the morning. I'm kidding. Actually, and treating them like little adults who have real emotions and who then learn, okay, it's you make mistakes, but then
I don't think you're right. It's not actually a negative for kids to see you bickering or having an argument, but it is important to see how we resolve it, and I think
100%.
that's life, right? It's always going to be
100%.
things like that.
100%. And it's interesting when you're saying that. Like, I think what comes to mind, Tyge, is like in the heat of the moment, it's almost like that pride thing, because I do that too. I'm like, I know that I'm like, sometimes if I know I'm being a little bit silly, let's call it, and I'm like, okay, I could probably just back down and be like, okay, my bad, like, but then I'm like, no, I'm too proud, like, and so, but then again, with children, it's just like, you got to push that aside, and I'm learning to do that more and more myself too, because it's not just the two of you who are going to be impacted, it's like the whole family dynamic, and is it worth it? So it's amazing how children can really help your relationship evolve if you let it, right, into something, it's something more where, you may have spent ages when you're a couple, just the two of you having an argument, and both of you are like steadfast in your thoughts, but it was, again, it was only the two of you implicated. I actually spoke to a psychologist in one of our episodes, and she mentioned that that walking away bit is actually really good too. So certainly have your bickering, but if you're realizing it's escalating to a level where you're like, it's not productive, just sort of walk away, and have time to digest and come back as your better selves. So, I mean, we've certainly used that strategy, and it sounds like you guys have as well. You find that kind of helpful, do you? You were saying, Christina, that kind of works for your dynamic.
Well, I mean, look, I'm a loud American. I'll get in his face in an argument. Like I want to resolve it, but I want it now. And, and all that does is push his buttons and make him close up more and more and more.
Yeah.
So I found that changing my tone, usually even just going to the room, having a bit of a moment, and coming back, because conflict is just, it creates a horrible space. So it's like, how do we create this to be a good space again, to have the de-escalation? Did I do that right?
No, close.
It works for me.
The argument. So walking away, taking a minute.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that as well. What comes to mind is I spoke to a relationship psychologist, and she said the couples that I worry about the most are the ones that walk in and say, we're having difficulties, but we haven't fought in like 2 years.
I say that all the time.
We haven't fought, because when you fight, you care. When you don't fight, you've given up, So
I think they say one of the last stages there's like 7 stages to like divorce, like emotions.
Right.
One of the last ones is just you don't care.
Is that right? Do you know, that's interesting. I haven't heard that. Do you know what the others are?
No.
Yeah.
I don't,
You don't use the D word, so it's irrelevant.
I just remember, and just finding that really interesting. That like really just like whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. So I think that I find it hilarious when couples are like, we don't fight. I'm like, wow.
It's like, really?
I find it really healthy
Yeah.
if because
Well,
it pulls up stuff.
well, you
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I believe it makes you stronger. Like you can only be as strong as what you've been through, and
Yes.
maturity comes out of going through stuff. So you mature as a couple by going through things,
Yeah.
and your relationship strengthens, the trust grows as you
Yes.
go through valleys and then up, and then valleys and then up. So it's really not a negative to
No.
have things go on where it
Yeah.
challenges each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Sort of coming full circle to when you guys first had children. So, biggest challenge you would say was the sleep factor. Was there anything else there that kind of produced a bit of contention in your household?
Yeah. So for us, right at the beginning, you're ticking every box. So it's colic, it's sleep deprivation, it's trying to figure out what the heck to do. What we found with Parenthood is it got more nitty gritty when we had the second. So you got that first kind of like you're kind of in that bubble. You've got one little hand to hold. I get lots of breaks because he can take Valor, our oldest, vice versa. Then you get that second kid. Because and FYI for all listeners, we are done having babies now. We've got the perfect boys, so we're done. But for us, that two factor is when you don't have as much time to sleep. I can't sleep with the baby because I got the toddler.
Yeah.
He's working more. We've got more bills. It was just a lot more. And so for us, that's when Parenthood found. And like I mentioned, our oldest son is high energy. He's high emotion. He sees the world a little bit differently, which we love. But then how do you navigate that? And then you've got a baby, and it's so interesting. But that's when Parenthood felt like the hood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been from day one. I mean, how old's our boy? 6 this year.
Yeah,
So
7
for 6 years, we've been getting up at 5 a.m. Since day one.
Sorry, I think
we more like her now.
There we go.
But what I'm saying is our household is alive. The kids are, and many years for quite some time, they'd wake up and it'd just be loud and yelling and screaming from the kids, and that's the way you kind of start your day.
They start their day wrestling. That's my cereal. And it's just like, and it's early, and then I'll have all my other friends around being like, "Oh, little Timmy slept till 7:30." I'm like, "Oh, it's so nice." Now the boys are trying to sleep in more, and I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's there's bits of Parenthood which is just a hard slog,
isn't it?
And if you're out there thinking I'm the only one that's up and it's dark out and my kids are fighting and I've never had a hot coffee because I keep needing to, it can feel really like hard and isolating. So
but we've always said, and the way I've always looked at it is our kids are here and they're challenging us to grow and become better. It's never been, man, these kids are making our lives so tough and hard and this and that. It's always been, hey, this stuff's coming out of me. That it's because of what's going on in our home, but this needs to change in here because I don't want, I can't ever point the finger and say it's because the kids act like this, the dad reacted like this or that. At some point, hey, go sit down. It's the deal. Sorry,
we're nearly done.
So I think for us, it's always been looking at it in a real positive way and going, hey,
we are actually better people now. Like he's a way better husband, way better dad than the day I handed him the baby, and I'm way better myself because it pushes you to grow. You take that selfishness in you that you had as a young married couple, sipping your latte with not a care in the world, and Parenthood just rips all of that out bit by bit, 5 a.m. by 5 a.m. But if you look at that like a really amazing thing, then there's less of me it's pretty awesome, you know?
I love that. I love that. Like, it's just, yeah, it's such a good way to look at things because you've got a choice. You can look
Yeah.
at things and go, oh, damn it. Like, I'm just so over it. And look at that season as we're talking, sort of, coming back to the start of the conversation. Look at that 20 something running the botanical gardens and just, footloose and fancy free. And I haven't slept in 3 weeks and I'm over it and my kids are driving me nuts. Or, okay, that's their season. This is my season. And, I've got opportunities to really kind of grow as a person. I love that. I think it's so important to sort of really reframe that when we can. I ask all of our guests this last question. So how has parenthood changed you as a person?
It's a good one. You go first, babe.
I just think I care more about people. So being a mother, it does something to your soul, your heart, your spirit. It just, like I've given birth, I have a baby, I'm protective, I've got kids. Now when I meet people, I hear their stories differently. You watch the news, all of a sudden you're crying.
Yes.
I feel like I love more.
Yeah.
I feel like I just feel things a lot more with that mother heart. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So for me, that's been the biggest thing that surprised me is how much I feel like my chest has been cracked open. And it's not just with my kids, you're talking to a friend and all of a sudden I feel so much more deeply about what she's struggling with.
Yes.
So it's a heart enlargement.
I think it's also made it real feisty.
Yeah.
Like, she's a mum you don't want to mess with. She's taken that into the business world, into every world. Like, honestly, don't give her the wrong cup of coffee.
Here's the thing. He's only saying that because yesterday one mom had a problem with my eldest at school.
Oh, right.
And
big mistake.
Honey, I will walk across that car park, tap on your window, honey, let's chat. No, not my kid, girl. So yes, it's definitely made me a very feisty mama bear.
Well, you care less. I'm almost the same. I'm like, I don't care anymore what people think. Like, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. If I saw you push in line while I'm waiting at Baker's Delight with my 2 children and you're just pushed in line, I'm going to go tap, tap. Excuse me, I was next. Whereas, 5 years ago, I would just be like quietly, meekly standing there. That's okay. They can go first. I don't have time for that shit anymore.
No. I'm definitely especially when it comes to my kids.
Yes.
Mama bear comes out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What about you, Tyge?
What changed you, Tyge?
I suppose it's caused me to think further than myself. So, up until having kids, I really just thought for Tyge and for my moment and whatever. And you can live your life however you like. I used to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day for 10 years.
That's before me.
And all these things. And then you realize, hey, like, I got these kids to raise and I need to, really have that perspective in mind that, they're my responsibility. And, dad needs to be around. And so there's a lot of things that I've needed to change in my life. And so really, just really changed the way I view life overall, really. I think, that's...
I love that. It's so true, isn't it? All that you're saying. I want to hear more about, so you're filming in a week's time. Tell us a little bit about the show and also how people can find out more about you guys.
Yeah, so To Reno is our series that we've started. We've been house flipping now for like 2.5 years full time.
Wow.
And then we just decided we wanted to put out content that felt really like us.
Yeah.
Look at him telling off the kid. And so we had created a series on YouTube. If you just look up To Reno, and the same as Instagram, where it's very HD TV vibes, where we just take you through the entire flipping process. We argue a bit. It's very real, but it feels like us. And to create content that we would kind of want to watch, that's, your how-tos, your renovation, transformation of a house. It's a fun watch. And it's not long, but we're ready to flip the next house, which we start in like a week and a half, and a week. So we're busy at the moment, but it's exciting, and we're doing what we love. So it's awesome.
Oh, I love that. I'll pop the details in the episode notes as well so that people can find you guys. Guys, thank you so much for your time, for being so open and honest in this conversation. And yeah, it's been great to connect. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
All
for
the
having
best
us.
to all
Appreciate
the
it.
tired parents out there.
Yeah.